So good old Kevin Smith was back again this year with another classic, Clerks III.
Banger.
Honestly, one of my favorite movies of the year. We just talked about recently the Oscar nominations. And of course, obviously, those movies are fantastic and great and all that good stuff. But for my money, Clerks 3 is in my top 5.
That's how we did it in the 90s, son!
And I know it's more of like a niche movie. This movie was made for fans of Kevin Smith. It's made for Kevin Smith, fans of his movies. But honestly, I don't think Kevin Smith gets enough love. He's obviously not a fucking Quentin Tarantino or fucking Coen Brothers type of guy, but in his wheelhouse, I think he's one of the best directors out there and one of the best writers out there. In a lot of his movies, he writes dialogue, I think, better than anyone, or at least up there with some of the best. Like Tarantino's, again, another guy known for like writing really good dialogue. I know I'm probably going to get fucking shit for this, but I think Kevin Smith is up there with him, personally. Yeah. And it's because the dialogue that he writes is in line with the things that I say in real life with my friends. And I think that's the charm and appeal of Kevin Smith's films, is that it makes you feel like you're hanging out with your friends.
Now, Jay and Silent Bob are clearly the C-3PO and R2-D2. I mean, they've been here since the first movie, which was the last time they were cool, but they've been with the franchise so long, they still give them cameos and put them on the lunchboxes.
Friendship is a common theme throughout his films, and it's no different in this one. Starring Brian O'Halloran back again as Dante, Jeff Anderson as Randall, the regular cast of characters of Kevin Smith's friends, Mike Zapkick, Brian Johnson, Walter Flanagan, Ming Chen. These were all guys that were on his Comic Book Men show for a couple of years. And of course, Jason Mewes as Jay and Kevin Smith himself as Silent Bob. And Trevor Furman returned to this one as Elias, the Bible-thumping Christian from Clerks 2. Except in this film, Elias is a Satanist, which is hilarious.
He renounces Jesus.
He renounces Jesus. I want to give a little bit of a history lesson for anybody listening, and maybe you, Dusty. I don't know if we've ever really talked about this, but I think Clerks, the original, is one of like the first movies I've ever seen. I think it's like one of the reasons why I like movies.
Right.
And because at the time, I think I was like, I don't know, 12 or 13 or something like that. When did the first Clerks even come out? Let's see.
It's been a while.
1994.
Okay. I recently just rewatched all of them. And, building up to this conversation, just about that first movie, like the soundtrack is amazing.
Yep.
In that movie, and just like the nostalgia of how things actually were back then.
Oh yeah.
There's some things that they do, I think, in the movie. Like everybody that comes in, they just say pack of smokes.
Yep.
They don't say a brand.
Yeah.
And they kind of do that on purpose because you can't really, if you don't have, the approval, you can't really use that kind of branding.
Right.
But if you're a smoker, like if there's a local ma and pop convenience store,
they know what
you go in
want.
there daily, all you have to do is go and say pack of smokes.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter what you smoke. They know what you smoke and they're going to give it to you. So just the small town vibes and stuff like that. It's just a great. Jay is a menace in that one.
Yeah, he is. So credit to Kevin Smith in that he was friends with. He just made a movie with his friends back then.
Yep.
I think he maxed out his credit cards to pay for it, and shot on a black and white camcorder. And that movie, like, again, giving Kevin Smith credit for seeing the comedic genius of Jay Mewes and what type of monster he could be. Unfortunately, Mewes hasn't really had much of a career outside of this View Askew universe, this Jay and Silent Bob universe. But I first saw this, I think I must have been like 12 or 13. It came out in 1994, so I wasn't even 10 years old yet when it came out.
Right.
But I definitely saw it not too long after the fact, and I remember because one of my friends, it was like one of his brother's movies. So he had an older brother, and he was just like, oh, like, my brother made me watch this movie. It was really funny. You guys want to watch it? And we watched it one day, and like instantly, I was obsessed. And I've been a Kevin Smith fanatic since.
Mm-hmm.
Most of his movies are ones that I would consider some of my favorite movies.
He's made some great ones.
Yeah, Mallrats, Clerks.
Mm-hmm.
Clerks 2 is fucking great. Jay and Silent Bob.
Dogma.
Dogma is unbelievable. And then, so, again, he doesn't get a lot of credit, but some of his non-Jay and Silent Bob universe movies are really, really good. Namely, Zack and Miri Make a Porno. I think that movie's fucking great. But, you know, Chasing Amy and Jay and Silent Bob reboot. I honestly, I don't think he's made a bad movie, you know, with the exception of like Tusk and some of these more experimental movies that he's made. And even those are like good in their own way. But speaking just in his shared universe movie, the Jay and Silent Bob films, we'll call them. But yeah, I think they're all fantastic. And this one was no different.
You could have made a cool movie.
You're right. I'm living on borrowed time. No more watching movies.
I'm gonna make a movie!
And this picks up where Clerks 2 left off, where Dante and Randall decided to buy the convenience store that they have worked at for their whole lives. This movie opens up on... this movie had me crying most of the time, but it had me... I started crying like almost 5 minutes into the movie when you realize that Dante not only married, but lost his love. Rosario Dawson's character, Becky.
Yes. Yeah.
So we see that romance start to flourish in the second film, and she's fucking dead. She dies.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck, Kevin Smith? Why you do that to me?
That was a tough one.
That all sounds pretty romantic. Coming from a girl who doesn't believe in romantic love.
I don't believe in romantic love.
That's my girl.
But I do believe in you.
Yeah, and it kind of hits you. It sort of comes out of left field because the way the movie opens is this movie's about Randall, who has a heart attack and realizes that he didn't really do anything with his life, so he thinks, and he decides that he wants to make a movie. Dante says to him, you know what, like, you should just make a movie. We spend all our fucking time sitting around talking about movies. Why don't you just make a movie?
It's a funny arc because, like, in the original Clerks, he gives Dante shit. He's like, you're always looking, you know, because Dante's looking forward in life, want to do some, tired of his post in life. I'm not even supposed to be here. And you know, Randall's like, hey man, listen, let's just hang out. You know, it's just you and me. We're best friends. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to go anywhere. Yeah. And then now that they're old and, you know, he's facing mortality, he's like, well, holy shit, we really didn't do anything. Maybe it is time. So I thought that was a good arc.
Yeah. And it's in this early, you know, moment of the film where, you know, Dante's at the hospital waiting to hear back about what's going on with Randall, and they do a little flashback of him being in the hospital with Becky.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck? Like I did not expect it at all. Mm-hmm. He fucking he brought back Rosario Dawson to be a Force ghost in his own movie.
Yeah.
Fucking brilliant.
Amazing. Yeah.
So, you know, both characters have to deal with their own shit. I mean, they're both dealing with mortality in their own way. Randall obviously dealing with his own, now thinking like, I had done nothing with my life. Dante was right. And Dante's sort of just in mourning, really, throughout the whole film.
Thought he finally found happiness.
Yes,
it was ripped away from him.
Correct.
And now he might be losing his best friend too. So yeah, he's on the ropes right here.
Yeah. So this heart attack obviously was inspired by Kevin Smith's real life heart attack. He talks about it often, and you know, having a brush with death will change a man. And he's now vegan and he's living a healthy life. A far cry from the man that once got kicked off an airplane for being too fat. Yeah, he has a comedy special about it too. Too Fat to Fly. Yeah. So throughout the course of this film, they are doing basically what Kevin Smith did in the original Clerks. They get together their friends, they scrounge together some money, and they start writing a script about two guys working in a convenience store. So they're literally making Clerks, essentially.
The first movie. Yeah, they're making the first movie in this movie, which is amazing. Yeah,
it is amazing.
Love that.
By the end of the movie, he hits you again with a fucking baseball bat. And the whole time you're thinking like, oh shit, Randall is having, you know, heart problems, a brush with death, this, that, and the other thing. He fucking goes and kills Dante at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
I did not see that coming. I don't know if you did.
No, I did not either. No.
Totally didn't expect that. And, you know, it's such a beautiful moment when they're in the hospital together. And
Rick Sandan brings him the laptop. Yeah.
he brings him the laptop. And the movie that he ended up making was just the movie of their... Oh, man, I'm going to get choked up talking about it. He makes the movie of their friendship. And it's basically just... And, you know, there's this scene where kind of Dante's sort of like reliving his memories, life flashing before his eyes, so to speak, as he drifts off. And man, it was such a beautiful message. It's like almost like, you know, we recently covered Banshees of Inisherin, and it's a very similar thing too, of like, you have one guy who's got these like really grand plans for his life and is having a crisis of like, I haven't done anything and I want to have more meaning in my life, this and other thing. And then the other character just being like, we already have the thing that makes life rich to begin with. Amsterdam was a similar plot, and we recently talked about that movie.
Right.
You know, like the riches of life aren't really, I mean, I guess it's subjective, but if you had interviewed people on their deathbed, most people would tell you the same thing. Like, you know, having good friends and family and stuff like that.
Appreciate the little things in life. If you have too grandiose ambitions or goals, you're sometimes going to be let down.
Right.
Once you get there, it's the journey and the friends that are with you on the journey is really what it's about.
Yeah, and Kevin Smith takes it a step further in this movie, and it's not just about appreciating the little things. Like, there's no need to like try to become rich or famous or all this stuff, but even further than that is like, appreciate what you have, because tomorrow you might fucking be gone. And I think that was the final message of the movie, because us as the audience, we just said we didn't even expect Dante to die. I didn't expect anybody to die. I just thought it was going to be a movie about a guy dealing with the fact that he had a brush with death. I didn't expect an actual death to take place.
He took it. Yeah, he stepped it up.
So but he does the thing that he's trying to convey. It's like, you know, everybody tells you that. It's like, hey, appreciate what you have, because, you know, you could fucking die tomorrow. He literally has one of his characters die, so that way he could get that message across. Completely didn't expect it. Took me by surprise. Swept me off my feet. Completely crushed me. And, you know, prior to this movie coming out, one of my favorite scenes in any movie ever was the end of Clerks II, where they have purchased the convenience store. They're standing back there to go to work like they always have, and the camera slowly pulls back and fades to black and white, and it basically reminds you of the first film. But this movie has a lot of close seconds, namely that ending, you know, where, like, you know, Randall's working behind the counter, his friend's not with him, but he has those memories of, like, their life together.
I can't catch my breath, man.
Really? Should I try mouth stuff?
What is this, a Tinder date? Get off of me.
You said you can't breathe.
I can breathe, I can't catch my breath.
Yep.
Talking about the actors and stuff, again, a lot of these guys don't work much outside of Kevin Smith flicks, but they're all like pretty fucking great in their own ways. Like, I thought Brian O'Halloran was amazing in this movie, probably better than he's been in any of the other Kevin Smith movies. Like that, especially that scene when he has the heart attack and he's really like spilling his guts out to Randall. And what actually triggers the heart attack is that he kind of gets all riled up because he's kind of pissed because Randall's sort of focused on his own shit. And he's like, you never even once like stopped to fucking ask me how I'm doing or appreciate like what I'm doing for you. Like, I'm fucking spending my money and I'm putting in my personal time to like help you do this thing, and you're not like reciprocating that in any way. And we've all felt something similar, you know, in friendships, relationships, where like, you know, you give just that much more, you just give this type of effort that you feel the relationship deserves, and sometimes it's not reciprocated. It fucking sucks.
Well, and the beautiful part about it all, even though it's a sad moment, is Dante is, you know, he's trying to be there for Randall because he's faced mortality, and it sucks and he doesn't like it, so he wants to be there for him. And this friendship, and as friendships do, sometimes it's a bit abrasive.
Yeah.
And there's some animosity,
Of
and
course.
it boils over in the scene, and it's so traumatic.
Yeah.
And just
And then he just has a heart attack. So they don't. I mean, they
Yep.
get their reconciliation right before he dies, but it's not really like a satisfying. I mean, it is satisfying, but it's not like a conversation between the two.
for the movie is great,
Yeah.
but I mean, oftentimes you don't even get that. So
Right.
it was nice to see it in the movie.
Yeah.
Where he got to talk to him.
They got their closure. Yeah, I mean, all around, I thought this was a really great movie. And again, I know that this is not a movie that I watched reviews on this after I watched it, and you know, most people aren't like giving it super props. They're saying, you know, is Kevin Smith back? Blah 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 blah. Kevin Smith never went anywhere. If you like his movies, you
Right.
like his movies. If you don't, you don't. But you know, we often talk about like nostalgia here on the channel and fan service. For my money, there is no motherfucker on this planet that is better at doing fan service than Kevin Smith. Everybody should take a fucking note, because, you know, he knows very well that he has a niche audience and that his audience is very much his audience. He made this movie for fans specifically, and he pays it off 100%. Every single little nod or Easter egg or reference to another film, he does it brilliantly. This is a movie that I think anybody could watch and appreciate it for the message that it has, but it has an even bigger payoff for those who've been with Kevin Smith all these years, because, you know, they're a little bit older than me, obviously, the characters and the actors, but I feel like I grew up with these guys. Like, you know,
Absolutely.
and that's what movies and television does. I mean, maybe sounds stupid, but Kevin Smith himself has a story about Robin Williams. He actually said this in his review of Endgame, because he cries, and people make fun of him for crying on the internet, and he was like, listen, this shit like gets to me. And he recalled a time when he was working on Good Will Hunting.
Good Will Hunting. He was an EP.
Yeah, he was a producer on that, and he said he was talking to Robin Williams, and he had said something about like what's the number one thing you get like remembered for by fans, and he was, you know, Kevin Smith thought it was going to be Good Morning Vietnam, that like thing, and Robin Williams was like, no, it's actually Mork and Mindy. And Kevin Smith was surprised, and Robin Williams was like, listen, he's like, when you're on people's TVs, you're in their homes, you become like a family to them, because you watch them every week, and they're in your home, your living room. And back then, when Mork and Mindy was on TV, like that was the family thing. It's like you gather around the TV, and what do you have, like 4 shows to pick from that run in succession of one another? It's why
Happy
shows.
Days.
Yeah. So that story always stuck with me, because sometimes, you know, when actors die, it's kind of, I think, cheesy when people like post about it on Instagram and shit. You're like, come on, you didn't fucking know the person. But like in a way you kind of do, because they're part of your life. They're characters in your life. You know, Robin Williams' death like hit me fucking hard, because like I grew up watching Hook and Mrs. Doubtfire and like all that shit. So, you know, in a similar way with these characters, like Dante's death fucking hit me hard. I feel like I fucking grew up with the dude in a way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. This movie stuck with me. I fucking loved it.
Yeah, this I would say the friendship between like the I mean it hit me, but not as much as the Dante Becky storyline.
That hit me hard too.
I mean that was a little bit more personal for me. You know, I dated a girl for about 15 years. On and off, we split up for a year or two, and she passed away.
Yeah.
So I, you know, when he was sitting there and his eyes are red and he's trying to hold back his tears, he's like, I had the life, I had the family. That one, it hit a nerve. And so
for a good reason.
Shout out to Kevin for being able to portray that in a beautiful way, because this movie is like, if you've been through some shit, even if you've never seen the other ones, like this one can, like the older you get, the more people you see die. It's just a fact of life.
Yep.
And it gets hard when you think back on some of the times you've had with some of those people. So this is just, it's a good movie. He did copies life so well in his movies with this storyline. The Clerks storyline it's just about living and friends and growing and losing and gaining. It's about the wins and losses.
Yeah. And
the ebbs and flows of life.
And that's why I think he's such a great writer, because like, you know, oftentimes with like any like engineer, or, you know, I'm a graphic designer, I say this to you all the time, like less is more, right? Like, you don't have to have like some sort of fucking Coen Brothers script or a Quentin Tarantino script to be a good writer. Like, just writing about the simple things that are life experiences, like it, like
tells a powerful message.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a great writer. I've had a conversation with one of my friends about this, who's like, "What are you talking about, bro?" He's like, "It's fucking Kevin Smith." Like, and it's like, yeah, but he's a good writer, writing the things that he knows about, which is growing up in a small town and having friends and making a movie and like all this shit. So, you know, and over the course of these 3 films, like, there's always been like arguments between Dante and Randall. It's like their thing. They have differing beliefs in all the films, but it all comes full circle in this one. Randall sort of is left with that. He's sort of vindicated in a sense, because he was kind of always right about his view on life of like, I don't need to achieve all these great things. Like, I was happy, and that's what counts. But he also is left with an appreciation for Dante's sort of perspective on life, in that like Dante didn't want anything that crazy either. He just wanted like to be married and have a family.
Yeah. He had more ambitious goals than Randall.
Right.
And I mean, and that happens with everybody. I mean, you and I have different goals, and who's to say one of us, you know, we'd have to talk them out to see who's more ambitious in their goals. But yeah, I mean, everybody's different. And he does a good job of portraying that. So yeah, huge Kevin Smith fan. This movie is no different than the rest for me. I loved it. It has it's sitting on IMDb right now at a 6.4. I'm giving this a 7.5. I'm going up. I'll give it a 7.5 too. This movie was amazing. Yeah. It hit me in the feels more times than I thought it would. Right. I kind of figured it would because I knew the premise of the friend stuff. But when I actually sat down and watched it, like, I was just like, oh my God, this is. I mean, like I said, his movies generally strike an emotional chord with me. They have, like, recently, especially like Jay and Silent Bob reboot. Clerks II did. I knew this was going to, especially knowing that it was like based off of his heart attack. But I didn't quite expect it to do what it did. Last thing I'll say is that I just want to, I mean, this is cheesy. I know he'll probably never see it, but thank you, Kevin Smith, for pumping out fucking great movies. Since I've been a kid. You're one of the reasons why I like movies to begin with. Leave a comment down below, folks, if you've watched Clerks 3. Let us know what you think of it. If you haven't, consider checking it out. It's great. And check out all his shit. It's all fucking funny and heart. Full of heart. His writing is full of heart. It is. That's the best way to describe his stuff. But but yeah, consider subscribing if you have not done so already and you like the video. You can click on our playlist right over there to see some other movies we've covered recently, and we'll catch you in the next one. Hasta.